So, experiencing my life in flow sounds wonderful right about now. And I know that since I was introduced to logosynthesis, it has kind of brought a whole new dimension to being in flow. And this year's Logosynthesis Summer Academy, the theme is in flow. So, it seems very timely for me. And we have Mary O'Donoghue joining us from Drogheda, Ireland. Thank you for joining me, Mary.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's lovely to see you, Kathy. So thank you.
Yeah. So Mary is the director of the Summer Academy, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the vision for the Academy and what we can expect in this year's summer programs. You can offer us a little about your vision for the program.
Yes, I think what struck us, because we had worked quite hard to do last year's summer conference, and of course then COVID arrived and we weren't able to all meet up. So we really believed that we did not want to go another year without having the community get together as we have in the past, because there is something so powerful about a group of people who come from a similar heart and with the same intention of uh, learning for themselves, but supporting other people's learning and discovery. And so we 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 decided we have to run the summer academy this year online. And the hope and the vision is that the wonderful learning that we have experienced over the years in the summer conferences, for example, will continue this way. It's different, but we're hoping that that surge of wonderful joyfulness that comes in the summer conferences will also come in the summer academy.
I have every confidence that it will, because I know even when we did the one day in January for Logosynthesis Day, a lot of the comments that we got as feedback were they they really felt it in the
Yeah.
presenters, and they really felt it just being part of it. And I know we're all kind of Zoomed to death, and there's been a lot of Zoom meetings and training sessions and that, but the summer academy for me, I noticed that there was such a structure to it that I didn't have to think about what was coming next. It was all looked after for me, so I could really just participate. And it's hard to describe that until you're in it, but I know there was certainly a flow. Can you talk a little bit about the structure of the
Yes. Um, it was deliberately developed in the way that it is, because when people are coming to do the work that we do in both the summer conferences and hopefully the summer academy, you do need to have that safe structure that where you can be free to dance within the structure of the learning, but the structure needs to be there. That holding structure needs to be there. And what we try to do in all of the summer conferences as well is that we start with one presentation, people go off, and then the next one is another layer on top of that, and another layer on top of that, so that it's a constant movement towards freeing and letting the energy flow even more by the time we end. And it's I think the sense of the intention of that is understood at a non-verbal, very deep level in people. They know that they are being held in a safe place so that they can dance within that. Um, and so that structure is so important. Um, it was originally designed somewhat on the Tavistock way of doing it, but it's changed and
it's a
moved
logosynthesis way of doing it now.
in the logosynthesis way of doing it now. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
sense of safety and that sense of freedom to dance within that safety is vital, I think, for the work that's going to be done.
Yeah, and I know, I think when I first arrived at this summer conference, I didn't really know what to expect. And then I heard that we were doing all personal work, and I'm like, oh my, I've done a lot of personal work. Why do I have to do more? But
Mm.
what really struck me in that 4 days is just how things flow. Because when you're working on your own and doing self coaching, you're working in your practice groups, working on some layers, you're working with a guide to go deep. But there's something about that 4 days because we're in presentations and something sparks and you're in working groups and that kind of feeds. So you feed off of what other people are working on. And it allows you to go so deep that it helps to uncover and resolve and free and dance and in a way that you can't do even just with a seminar. I find like the past seminars.
Yes, because I think the difference is that everyone is coming from the exact same place, in each, because you go away after you've had the presentation, so the focus is on the same place. Everyone's focus is in the same way, and of course we're all of us then given the wonderful opportunity to practice from each perspective, so that you're learning on all levels.
Yeah.
It gives me goose pimples when or goosebumps when I think about the power and the strength of it.
Yeah. And just to have the opportunity to the staff, to work with the staff in those sessions has
Yeah,
was so impressionable for me as well, including yourself and
thank you.
Kristen,
Yeah.
and to have that one-on-one time. And yeah, it's certainly awesome. You're going to give a presentation, so maybe you can give us a little sneak peek about what your presentation is about.
Yeah. But if I can talk about the theme of the
Oh,
inflow
okay. Yeah.
theme as well, because I think that's important in the way things are now. What like one of the four axioms of logosynthesis is that energy is either frozen or in flow. And sure, of course, for the whole lot of us at the moment, the world at the moment is start, stop, start, stop. So we're frozen or in flow, and we don't know where we're coming from. And people were um, coming from all over the globe and making appointments because of this stop start. So we thought of all times in flow was probably
Yes.
the thing that was worth looking at. And of course, then the other piece of this is for anyone who's looking to move forward in their practice, it's also alive. So, and that's one of the requirements if you're going forward for practitioner and master practitioner, you need to have done alive. So this covers as alive as well. But we all agreed that inflow felt like the right thing. And so everything that all the presentations are geared in some way to keeping us all in flow as much as possible in this. And
Awesome,
then,
because we're in lockdown yet again here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. So that I think of all times, this was the time to actually look at that. And I suppose in a way, it's a lovely way of letting people who may not um, have the full grasp of logosynthesis. It's a lovely way for them to see how you can move away and unfreeze frozen energy and move it forward in something that's in the here and now. Because people can be triggered in the here and now into something from the past. But for people who are starting off, it's often useful and probably healthier for them to start working with the frozen energy in the now and then go deeper the further along you go. So
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
that's our thinking on it anyway. So
I love the theme. So thank you. Yeah.
thank you. And then you asked about what am I presenting? Um, I'm presenting two things that really get me excited and full of joy. And it's around supervision. Now, I know when I say supervision that people will sometimes go, "Oh my goodness, here we go with supervision." But supervision is wonderful if you're meeting it in the right place. I couldn't work without it. And what it does is it allows us in our practice to stay in flow. Um, I had my own supervision this morning. I have it about once every 2 weeks, but I had it this morning. And I was a little blocked around the issue that I brought to supervision. And just sitting in a safe environment with someone who is accepting of who you are and accepting of the fact that you're doing your best and coming from a good heart in the work. But sometimes we get a little blocked, and we sometimes then think, oh, it must be me, or is it the client, or where is it? And so we get a bit confused. And that stops us being free within the work. Within 10 minutes of my supervision starting, I was back in flow again. So this is a simple, lovely little model that allows people to do it in their own head, if nothing else, and check, oh, I might get blocked there. Oh, there's an interesting thing. And it revitalizes you. So that's the supervision end of it. And then there's the ethical model that I teach as well. And one of the things that I think is amazing, we as practitioners often worry a huge amount about how we to make sure that we are doing everything within our power to keep our clients safe. And that's important as part of the ethical model. But what we often forget is, how are we keeping ourselves safe, and how are we keeping ourselves um, well? And part of the ethical model is self-care. And people will often say, oh, what's self-care? But one of the things that I found really interesting over the years of working with people who are starting off is how they oftentimes, and I did it at the start as well, would go to bed at night and you were still thinking about the clients and you were still worrying about them. And I remember at one stage, I probably had about 10 or 20 people running around in the bedroom when I was trying to sleep.
Yeah.
No one ever teaches us how to take off the professional coat and come back home to ourselves and put on the professional coat and be there for our clients. And that's what some of this is as well. So I find it incredibly joyful, and I'm hoping, and anyone that I have taught it to in the past have found it extraordinarily useful, and allows to them to stay in flow in their work practice for many years, as opposed to burning out when people don't have this information to hand.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, especially right now, because where there's so much uncertainty around us and so many people coming forward with challenges, and feeling like you have to look after it all and control it all.
And hold it
Can
all.
Yeah, and hold it all. Yeah.
And one of my very dear friends, and she's an extraordinary therapist and an extraordinary logosynthesis practitioner. Years ago, I remember I had gone for acupuncture or something like that, and the therapists had said to me, I often look at you sometimes, Mary, and see sadness in your eyes. And I'm often interested because I don't often think that you're sad. So I was doing supervision with this group of wonderful, wonderful women. And this therapist was there, and we were checking in, how are you, and whatever. And I said, this is an interesting comment that was made to me. And I think her analogy or her metaphor was so brilliant. She said, it's almost, Mary, like there was a fire in a house. We are not in it while it's burning, but we walk through it afterwards. And when we come out, we have the smell of smoke. How do we get rid of the smell of smoke. And if we sit opposite people who have experienced the fire of trauma, we often carry the smell of the smoke of the trauma afterwards. And this is a way of taking care of you and making sure that you're able to smell a little bit better at the end.
Feel refreshed afterwards, right?
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
much nicer way of saying it, Kathy. Thank you. Be
Well, and
refreshed afterwards.
yeah, I'm thinking that in order to go to the summer academy, you just have to have completed the basic training. Is that correct?
Yeah,
The basic
yeah,
seminar?
basic seminar.
Yeah.
So that's what you need, and you can register on the website. There's quite a few people have already registered, and I would be suggesting that people would register sooner rather than later because it's an online thing and because we're still doing working groups. We have to restrict it to a certain amount of people. Um, Otherwise, we would have a staff of millions, and that's not going to work. So I would suggest that it would be a good idea if you're interested, and be interested, because it's the most wonderful experience. It really is a lovely, lovely experience. And what's wonderful too is you connect with people from all over the globe, everywhere, all over the globe. And what I discovered, I think, that was so wonderful about the thing was that regardless of where you're coming from, if you're coming from the same heart, everyone understands each other. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what your religious background is, or if you have no religion at all. If you're coming from that same essence, if
Mhm.
you're coming from essence, um, we understand each other so well. And that's such a joy. It doesn't happen all that often in the matrix, but in the Logosynthesis conferences and the summer academies, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and I know when I was at the summer academy in Germany, a lot of people, English wasn't their first language. And
Yes.
so some people are like, do the sentences still work if you're not doing them in your normal language? And some people found that they worked better in English because it kind of took their thinking brain out of it and just connected it more at an energetic level.
Exactly.
And the connections were so powerful, like it almost went beyond the language, and
It did.
the
It
connections were
does. It
just,
goes beyond the language. It's
yeah.
very interesting. Um, I taught a good bit in Italy, pardon me, and just just being there, it's almost like you attune to the essence. You attune to this, to whatever is going on. So you don't even necessarily need to know what's being said. You understand it. It's amazing how
Yeah.
wonderful it is. And of course, this year we have the interpreter for anyone in Italy who may have a difficulty. Um, so if you only speak Italian, come along. We have an interpreter there as well.
Awesome. Well, this is so helpful. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything that's kind of resonates with you that you think everybody should know about?
I think one of the things that you and I looked at before is sometimes people probably think, oh God, I've been doing personal work forever and a day, and when does it stop? And when can I just sit down and relax and not do anything, and take it easy? There is something, I think, about the summer conferences and the summer academy, hopefully. There is something about that group holding that allows us to do it, and it doesn't feel like work. It feels like clearing. It feels like allowing us to flow again. Someone has unblocked the dam because it's all there held for us. So if you are slightly worried, no, I don't want to join because I'm fed up doing all this work, come, because it feels different. And you, I know, have experienced that yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if you think you have all your personal work done, which I kind of did at the time, you realize, oh no, there's still some more there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's managed in a different way.
yeah,
It's not like trudging through muck trying to get through to the other side. It's much more, someone has built a little bridge and I can skip along through to it.
yeah. And
When
it's so intriguing because the other piece is we start to realize that a lot of our issues are kind of shared by the group. Like a
yes,
lot of, Willem always says, you know, get on the wagon, or, you know, we can kind of do, or on the bus, and we can kind of do our own work at the same time. But to
yes,
me, that's fair, because a lot of times when there's things that are wrong in our life, we try to hold it inside, and
yes.
we don't really want to share because it's not comfortable to share. And but we start to recognize that we all have some pretty similar themes, right?
And
And
I
we all
think,
have it.
yeah, and I think for me, that's probably why I love logosynthesis so much. It's because what we do is we suddenly, when we connect with essence and recognize others' essence, compassion comes into
Yeah,
play. We recognize we are all human beings and we all are affected by the matrix and what goes on out there. And so we can have compassion for each other, and that's where the holding comes. I
yeah,
may not know exactly what it is that you're going through, but I have a fairly good idea of what it is. And that level of compassion, that level of kindness and love, I think, is one of the things that makes logosynthesis somewhat different from some of the other models.
yeah. Yeah, I think it is so unique because, you know, a lot of times we put our armor up. If you think of the Brene Brown, it's we
Yes.
put our armor up, and to be vulnerable can be
Mm,
challenging. And yet, in this work and in this community, we embrace it, and it's intriguing to explore it. Right?
yes. And it's human and it allows us to be accepting of self and others.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to let it go there, and I encourage everyone to sign up. So the information will be in this link, and sign up so you're not disappointed that you can't go. So thank you
Yes.
so much,
Do.
Mary.
Thanks a million, Kathy. That was lovely. I enjoyed that.